The letter from Riverside Bank felt heavy in my hands, like it was made of lead instead of paper. My fingers trembled as I read the words again. Payment overdue, $157,432.89. I blinked hard, hoping the numbers would somehow rearrange themselves into something less catastrophic. They didn't. My name is Michaela, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I had my life together. At 28, I had a stable job as a graphic designer, a cozy apartment in the suburbs, and an excellent credit score I'd worked hard to maintain. Now, according to this letter, I was somehow on the hook for a six-figure loan I'd never taken out. I grabbed my phone and dialed the bank's number with shaking fingers. After navigating through an endless maze of automated responses, a customer service representative finally picked up. "I'm calling about this letter," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "There must be some mistake." "Let me pull up your account, ma'am." The sound of typing filled the line. "Yes, I see the loan here. It was co-signed by you on March 15th of last year." "That's impossible. I never signed anything. I'm looking at the documentation right now. Your signature is clearly visible on all the forms." My stomach dropped. "Can you tell me who else signed these documents?" "The primary borrowers are listed as Amber Phillips and Rowan McDonald." The world tilted sideways. My parents, my own parents, had somehow used my name to secure a massive loan. "I need copies of everything," I managed to say. "Every single document." 20 minutes later, I was in my car, speeding toward my parents' house. The familiar tree-lined street where I grew up now felt alien and threatening. I parked crookedly in their driveway, next to my sister Juliana's blue Prius. Perfect. Family dinner night. Just the right setting for this confrontation. I burst through the front door without knocking. Mom was setting the table, and Dad was watching TV in his favorite armchair. Juliana looked up from her phone, startled by my entrance. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" My voice came out louder than I'd intended, making Mom drop a fork with a clatter. "Honey, what's wrong?" Mom's face was a mask of concern, but something flickered in her eyes. I slammed the bank letter on the dining table. "This is wrong. Over $150,000 wrong." Dad muted the TV, finally paying attention. "Now, Michaela, let's not get dramatic." "Dramatic? You forged my signature. You used me as a guarantor without my knowledge." Juliana picked up the letter, her eyes widening as she read. "Mom? Dad? What did you do?" "We did what we had to do," Mom said, her voice hardening. "The business was failing. We needed capital to keep it afloat." "So you committed fraud?" I laughed bitterly. "You destroyed my credit, my future, without even asking me?" "We're your parents." Dad stood up, his face reddening. "Everything we've done has been for this family. You owe us—" "I owe you nothing!" The words exploded out of me. "You had no right!" "Keep your voice down," Mom hissed. "The neighbors will hear." "Let them hear. Let everyone hear how you betrayed your own daughter." Juliana stepped between us. "Maybe we should all calm down and— Are you part of this too?" I turned on her. "Did you know?" The guilty look on her face said everything. "Get out." Dad pointed at the door. "If you're going to be ungrateful, get out of my house." "Gladly." I snatched the letter back. "But this isn't over, not by a long shot." As I stormed out, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Heard you're in trouble. I can help. Lisa." Lisa, my cousin. The successful attorney I hadn't spoken to in years, not since the family pushed her away for choosing her career over family obligations. Now I understood why she distanced herself. I sat in my car, staring at the text. Lisa had always been the black sheep of the family, the one who refused to play by their rules. Maybe it was time to follow her example. My fingers moved across the screen. "When can we meet?" The response came instantly. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. Let's make them pay." I started the engine, my mind racing with possibilities. They thought they could use me, manipulate me, destroy my future for their benefit. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. I wasn't that naive little girl anymore who would do anything to please her parents. They wanted to play with fire? Fine. Let's see who gets burned. Lisa's law office occupied the entire top floor of a sleek downtown building. As the elevator doors opened, I found myself face to face with my cousin for the first time in 5 years. She looked exactly as I remembered: sharp blazer, perfectly styled hair, and eyes that could cut through steel. "You look terrible," she said, pulling me into an unexpected hug. "Thanks. I feel worse." She led me through a maze of cubicles to her corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, but I barely noticed. My attention was fixed on the stack of documents spread across her desk. "I pulled everything I could find on your parents' business dealings," Lisa said, closing the door. "It's worse than you thought." "Worse than forging my signature for 150 grand? Try 3 separate loans." Lisa slid 3 folders toward me. "All using your name as guarantee. Total exposure, just under $500,000. The room spun. I gripped the edge of her desk to steady myself. $500,000? "Sit before you fall." Lisa guided me to a chair. "Here, drink this." She pressed a glass of water into my hand. "Now, tell me everything." I recounted last night's confrontation, watching Lisa's expression darken with each detail. "Classic narcissistic manipulation," she muttered, taking notes. "They're counting on your emotional attachment to keep you quiet. They've got another thing coming." "Damn right they do." Lisa's smile was predatory. "Remember when they told me I was betraying the family by becoming a lawyer? Karma's a beautiful thing." She pulled up several documents on her computer. "Look at these signatures. They didn't even try to make them match yours properly." I leaned in, studying the crude attempts at copying my handwriting. "That's definitely not my signature. But how did the bank accept this?" "That's where it gets interesting." Lisa clicked through more files. "The loan officer who processed these? Percy Tucker? Ring any bells?" "Dad's golf buddy." The pieces started falling into place. They must have convinced him to push it through without proper verification. "Exactly, and that's our way in." Lisa grabbed her phone. "Percy's still at the bank. Let's pay him a visit." 20 minutes later, we walked into Riverside Bank. Percy's face went pale when he saw us approaching his desk. "Ladies, I'm afraid I'm quite busy." "Make time," Lisa cut him off, her voice steel-wrapped in silk. "Unless you'd prefer to explain to the banking commission how you approved fraudulent loan documents?" Percy's Adam's apple bobbed nervously. He ushered us into a private conference room. "I never meant for this to happen," he stammered, mopping his forehead with a handkerchief. "Your father assured me it was just temporary, that you'd agreed." "Save it," I snapped. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You were—" "Here's what's going to happen," Lisa interjected smoothly. "You're going to provide us with copies of every document, every email, every conversation related to these loans. In return, we might consider not naming you personally in the lawsuit." Percy's face cycled through several shades of gray. "Lawsuit? Did you think we'd let this slide?" Lisa's smile didn't reach her eyes. "My cousin's future was nearly destroyed because you decided to do old friends a favor." "Your parents will deny everything," Percy warned, but his resolve was crumbling. "Let them try." Lisa pulled out a recorder. "Now, why don't you tell us exactly how this happened?" An hour later, we left the bank with a USB drive full of evidence and a sworn statement from Percy. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text from Juliana. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They know you met with Lisa. Please be careful." "They're scared," Lisa observed, reading over my shoulder. "Good. They should be. What's our next move?" "We build our case. Every document, every witness, every detail matters." Lisa's eyes gleamed. "But first, we need to protect your assets. They might try to access your accounts again." "Can they do that?" "They've done it before. Trust no one, especially family." She paused. "Except me, of course." As we drove back to her office, another text came through, this time from Mom. "We need to talk. Your father and I are willing to make this right. Please come home." Lisa glanced at my phone. Classic manipulation tactic. "They're not sorry they did it. They're sorry they got caught." I typed back a single word. "No." "That's my girl," Lisa grinned. "Now, Let's go over these documents. By the time we're done, they'll wish they'd never heard of identity theft. Looking at the growing pile of evidence, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt and betrayal were still there, but now they were fuel for something else. Determination. My parents thought they could use me and discard me. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The next week passed in a blur of paperwork and revelations. Lisa's office had become my second home, with takeout containers and coffee cups marking our progress through mountains of financial records. We were building something bigger than just a fraud case. We were uncovering years of financial manipulation. A knock on the office door interrupted our work. Juliana stood there, fidgeting with her purse strap. "Can I come in?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. Lisa shot me a warning look, but I nodded. "Close the door behind you." Juliana sank into a chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "You need to know something about Mom and Dad's business." "We're listening." Lisa reached for her recorder. "The loans..." Juliana's hands twisted in her lap. "They weren't just for the business. Dad's been gambling. Online betting mostly. He lost everything." The revelation hit like a punch to the gut. "How long?" "Years. Mom covered for him, took out loans to pay his debts. When banks stopped lending to them..." She gestured helplessly at the documents spread across Lisa's desk. "That's when they turned to identity theft," Lisa finished, "using Michaela's clean credit." "There's more." Juliana reached into her purse and pulled out a USB drive. "I copied Dad's emails. He's been talking to some really scary people about paying back debts. I think he might be in trouble with loan sharks." Lisa plugged in the drive, and we watched as email after email populated her screen. Threats, payment demands, photos of our family being watched. It was worse than we'd imagined. "This changes things," Lisa muttered, scrolling through the messages. "We're not just dealing with fraud anymore. This is organized crime territory." "Why are you helping us?" I asked Juliana. "Why now?" "Because I can't sleep at night." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because every time I look at you, I remember standing there while they forged your signature. I didn't stop them. I should have stopped them." My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. "Your father's not well. Please come home. We need you." "Don't," Juliana warned. "They're trying to guilt you into dropping everything. Dad's fine. He was playing golf this morning." A sharp knock made us all jump. Percy stood in the doorway, looking even more nervous than usual. "I found something," he said, hurrying inside. "Your father didn't just forge Michaela's signature. He's been doing this to other family members too. Cousins, aunts, uncles, anyone with good credit." "Show me," Lisa demanded. Percy handed over another stack of documents. "These are just the ones I could access. There might be more at other banks." "Holy shit," Lisa breathed, flipping through pages. "This is systematic fraud. They've built a whole pyramid scheme using family members as unwitting guarantors." "That's not all." Percy pulled out his phone. "Listen to this voicemail from your father last week." Rowan's voice filled the room. "Percy, buddy, you need to destroy those original documents. All of them. Things are getting complicated, and we can't risk anyone finding them. Do this for me, and I'll make it worth your while." "Did you?" I asked. Percy shook his head. "I kept everything, made copies too. What they're doing, it's not right." Lisa was already typing furiously on her computer. "This is exactly what we needed. With this evidence, we can..." Another knock interrupted her. A young paralegal burst in, looking excited. "Ms. Lisa, you need to see this. Someone just posted on social media about Mr. Rowan asking them to be a loan guarantor. It's going viral." We crowded around her phone. The post was from our cousin Sarah. "Warning, if Rowan asks you to sign anything, don't. He tried to make me guarantee a loan today. When I refused, he got aggressive. Watch out, family. Something shady is going on." "It's all falling apart," Juliana whispered. "No," Lisa corrected, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "It's all coming together. Your parents thought they could keep this quiet, use family loyalty to cover their tracks, but they forgot something important." "What's that?" I asked. "The truth always comes out, and when it does..." She gestured at the growing pile of evidence on her desk. "It comes out all at once." My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Dad. "You're tearing this family apart. Is that what you want? I showed the message to Lisa, who snorted. No, you're not tearing the family apart. You're exposing the rot that was already there. Big difference. Looking at the evidence spread before us, the forged signatures, the threatening emails, the social media post, I felt a strange sense of calm. The truth was finally emerging, one damning piece at a time. What now? Juliana asked. Lisa's smile was razor sharp. Now? Now we go nuclear. Going nuclear turned out to mean a coordinated legal and public assault that would make my parents' heads spin. Lisa's office buzzed with activity as we prepared for what she called D-Day. The annual family reunion is this Saturday, Lisa said, pinning photos to a large corkboard. Everyone will be there. It's the perfect time to serve the papers. In front of the whole family? Juliana gasped. That's brutal. That's the point. Lisa tapped each photo as she spoke. Aunt Margaret, Uncle Robert, Cousin Sarah, all potential victims. They need to know what's happening before your parents can target them next. My phone lit up with another message from Mom. Your father's having chest pains. If you care at all, come home now. Lying about health issues, Lisa scoffed. Classic manipulation tactic. Watch. Next they'll try. Another text appeared. We're selling the house to make things right. Please don't do this to us. Right on cue. Lisa shook her head. They're getting desperate. A knock at the door revealed Percy, clutching a thick manila envelope. I found the original loan applications. The ones with the forged signatures. They're keeping the originals in a safety deposit box. How did you get these? I asked. Your mother came to withdraw them this morning. I convinced her the bank needed to make copies first. He smiled weakly. She doesn't know I kept the originals. Lisa practically snatched the envelope from his hands. This is gold. Pure gold. There's something else. Percy pulled out his phone. I recorded her threatening me. Said if I didn't help them cover this up, they'd claim I was the one who forged everything. The recording played. My mother's usually sweet voice turned cold and threatening. I barely recognized her. Add witness intimidation to the list, Lisa muttered, updating her notes. The DA is going to love this. DA? Juliana's voice cracked. You're going to have them arrested? They committed multiple felonies, Lisa explained. This isn't just civil anymore. They're looking at serious prison time. My stomach lurched, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group message to the entire extended family. Emergency family meeting tonight at our house. Michaela is making false accusations. Please come support us in this difficult time. Amber and Rowan. Perfect, Lisa grinned. They're gathering all our witnesses in one place. I can't go, I said. I can't face them. You have to. Lisa gripped my shoulders. Show them you're not afraid. Show them they can't manipulate you anymore. That evening, I pulled up to my parents' house, Lisa beside me in the passenger seat. Cars lined the street. Seemed like the whole family had shown up. Ready? Lisa asked, briefcase in hand. No, I admitted, but let's do it anyway. Inside, the living room was packed. Faces turned toward us as we entered, some concerned, some angry, some just confused. Mom and Dad stood at the front of the room, looking like they'd aged years in the past week. Michaela, Mom stepped forward, arms outstretched. Thank goodness you're... Save it. Lisa's voice cut through the room. We're not here for reconciliation. She opened her briefcase and began passing out documents. These are copies of fraudulent loan applications, your signatures, forged by Rowan and Amber. Check them carefully. Some of you might find surprises. The room erupted in chaos. Aunt Margaret screamed when she found her signature. Uncle Robert started cursing. Cousin Sarah burst into tears. This is all lies, Dad shouted over the noise. We would never... Really? Lisa pulled out her phone and played Percy's recording. Mom's threats filled the room, silencing everyone. Oh my God, someone whispered. Oh my God. There's more, Lisa continued, her voice steady. Bank statements, email threats, evidence of gambling debts, a whole pattern of fraud and deception, using all of you as unwitting victims. We did it for the family, Mom cried. Everything we did was for... Stop, My voice surprised even me. Just stop lying. For once in your life, tell the truth. The room went silent. All eyes turned to my parents. Dad seemed to deflate, sinking into his armchair. I lost everything, he whispered. The business, our savings, everything. I couldn't stop. So you decided to destroy your daughter instead? Lisa's voice dripped with contempt. Steal her identity? Ruin her credit? We were desperate, Mom sobbed. We didn't know what else to do. Well, now you've lost something else, I said, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. You've lost me. I turned to leave, but Lisa's voice stopped me. Actually, there's one more thing. She pulled out a final stack of papers. These are for you, Rowan and Amber. You've been served. The papers hit the coffee table with a satisfying thud. As we walked out, the sound of my family's shocked voices followed us into the night. The war had begun, and there would be no going back. The courthouse steps felt like a stage, and we were about to put on the performance of our lives. Lisa strode beside me, her heels clicking against marble, while Juliana trailed behind us like a nervous shadow. Today was the preliminary hearing, and my parents were about to learn exactly what they were up against. Remember, Lisa whispered as we approached the courtroom, let me do the talking. No matter what they say, no matter how they try to provoke you. There she is! Mom's voice rang out across the hallway. My baby girl, please, can we just talk about this? I kept walking, eyes forward, just as Lisa had coached me. Dad stood by the courtroom doors, looking smaller in his suit than I remembered. You're really going to do this? He called out. Air our family's dirty laundry in public? Lisa stepped between us. Any communication needs to go through me, as you've been informed, multiple times. Inside the courtroom, more familiar faces filled the gallery. Aunt Margaret sat rigid in the front row, clutching her purse like a shield. Uncle Robert glared daggers at my parents. Cousin Sarah dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. All rise! The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, entered and took her seat. First case, Rice versus Phillips and McDonald, allegations of identity theft and financial fraud. My parents' lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stood up. Your Honor, this is a simple family misunderstanding that's gotten out of hand. We move to dismiss. Misunderstanding? Lisa's voice could have frozen hell. Your Honor, I have documented evidence of systematic identity theft, fraud, and witness intimidation. Furthermore, a commotion at the back of the courtroom interrupted her. Percy burst through the doors, face flushed. Your Honor, he called out, I have urgent evidence that needs to be presented. The judge frowned. And you are? Percy Tucker, Your Honor, bank officer at Riverside Bank. I have proof that the defendants attempted to destroy evidence this morning. My parents' lawyer jumped up. Objection? This is irregular. I'll allow it, the judge said. Approach the bench, Mr. Tucker. Percy hurried forward, pulling out his phone. They came to the bank an hour ago, trying to access the safety deposit box where we keep the original documents. When I refused, they said this. He played a recording. Dad's voice filled the courtroom. Listen here, you little rat. Delete everything or we'll make sure you go down with us. We know where your kids go to school. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Mom buried her face in her hands. Your Honor, Lisa's voice was deadly calm. I move to add witness intimidation and obstruction of justice to the charges. So noted. The judge's face had darkened considerably. Mr. and Mrs. McDonald approached the bench. My parents shuffled forward, looking nothing like the powerful figures who had dominated my life for so long. In light of this new evidence and the serious nature of these threats, I'm issuing an immediate restraining order. You are to have no contact with any of the witnesses, including your daughter and Mr. Tucker. But, Mom started. Furthermore, the judge continued, given the flight risk and the attempt to destroy evidence, I'm freezing all your assets pending trial. Their lawyer looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Your Honor, my clients have deep roots in the community. Your clients have deep roots in fraud, Counselor. Be grateful I'm not remanding them into custody right now. As if on cue, Juliana stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement. Our parents turned, hope flickering across their faces. It died as soon as Juliana started speaking. I was there when they forged the signatures. I watched them do it, and I did nothing. I'm here to testify against them and accept whatever consequences come with my involvement. No! Mom's cry echoed off the walls. Juliana, please! Bailiff, the judge called. Remove Mrs. McDonald if she can't control herself. Dad grabbed Mom's arm, pulling her back. His face had gone ashen. We'll reconvene next week for formal arraignment, the judge announced. Mr. and Mrs. McDonald, I suggest you seriously consider your position. The evidence against you is substantial. As we left the courtroom, I heard Mom collapse into sobs behind me. Part of me wanted to turn around, to comfort her like I always had. But Lisa's hand on my shoulder kept me moving forward. You did good, she whispered. The hard part's over. But looking at my shattered family, I wasn't so sure. The hard part felt like it was just beginning. Still, watching Percy stand tall despite their threats, seeing Juliana finally choose truth over loyalty, something inside me settled. Sometimes doing the right thing meant watching everything burn to the ground first. Outside, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. Lisa squared her shoulders. Ready to tell your story? I nodded. It was time to let the whole world know exactly what family could do to family. The media storm hit harder than any of us expected. Local news ran the story first, then national outlets picked it up. Family fraud scandal rocks community became the headline everyone was talking about. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from journalists seeking interviews. Don't answer any of them, Lisa warned, pacing her office. It's making your parents desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. She was right. That morning, we received an unexpected visitor. My mother's best friend, Susan, looking like she hadn't slept in days. You need to see this, she said, dropping a stack of letters on Lisa's desk. I found them while helping clean the house. Free. Lisa spread the letters across her desk. They were from various loan sharks, dating back 5 years, each one more threatening than the last. This one's from 3 months ago, Susan pointed to a particularly nasty letter. They threatened to break Rowan's legs if he didn't pay up. That's when they started using Michaela's identity. Why are you showing us this? I asked. Susan's hands trembled. Because yesterday I overheard Amber on the phone. She's planning to flee the country. She has money hidden away, cash, jewelry, things the courts don't know about. Lisa was already dialing. Judge Martinez, we need an emergency hearing, now. 2 hours later, we sat in the judge's chambers. Mom's face turned ghost white when she saw Susan walk in. You betrayed me, she whispered. No, Amber, you betrayed yourself. The judge listened as Susan detailed everything she knew about the hidden assets and escape plans. With each word, Mom seemed to shrink further into herself. Where's Dad? I asked suddenly, noticing his absence. He left last night, Mom's voice cracked. Took whatever cash he could find and disappeared. Left this. She pulled out a crumpled note. Lisa snatched it before she could hand it to me, scanning it quickly. Your Honor, Lisa's voice was tight. This note suggests Mr. McDonald has fled to avoid not just our charges, but apparently significant gambling debts to some very dangerous people. The judge read the note, her expression darkening. Mrs. McDonald, given these developments, I'm remanding you into custody until trial. No, please, Mom reached for me. Michaela, don't let them do this. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose to destroy my life to save your own, I said, surprised by how steady my voice was. As the bailiff led her away, Juliana burst into the chamber. They found Dad. We all turned to her. She held up her phone, showing a news article that had just broken. Local business owner found beaten in hotel room. Suspected gambling debts. He's in the hospital, Juliana continued. It's bad, really bad. The judge sighed heavily. He'll be under police guard. Add assault charges to the growing list of problems these people have created. Back at Lisa's office, we tried to process everything that had happened. Percy arrived with more documents, bank statements showing regular payments to offshore accounts. They've been moving money out of the country for months, he explained. Small amounts trying to stay under the radar. But why? I asked. Why go to all this trouble? Because of this. Lisa turned her laptop around, showing an email she'd recovered from Dad's account. They weren't just running from gambling debts. They were running a Ponzi scheme through their business, using new loans to pay off old ones, stealing from family members to keep it going. How deep does this go? Juliana whispered. Deep enough to put them away for a very long time, Lisa answered. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Your parents owe us money, lots of money. Their problems are now your problems. Lisa read it over my shoulder. Save that. We'll add witness intimidation to the charges. What happens now? I asked. Now? Lisa's smile was grim. Now we follow the money. Every account, every transaction, every hidden asset. We're going to dismantle their entire house of cards. A knock at the door made us all jump. A police detective stood there, looking grave. Ms. Michaela, we need to talk about your father. He's awake, and he's asking for you. Says he wants to confess everything. Lisa and I exchanged looks. This could be another manipulation tactic, or it could be the break we needed. Should I go? I asked. Yes, Lisa said firmly, but not alone, and we're recording every word. As we gathered our things to head to the hospital, I caught my reflection in the window. I hardly recognized myself anymore. The naive daughter who trusted blindly was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who wouldn't back down. Ready? Lisa asked, keys in hand. I nodded. It was time to hear the truth, all of it, no matter how ugly it might be. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and defeat. Dad lay in the bed, his face a mess of bruises, one arm in a cast. 2 police officers stood guard outside the door. 5 minutes, the detective said. We'll be right outside. Lisa set up her recorder as I approached the bed. Dad's eyes flickered open, focusing on me with difficulty. You came, he whispered. Not for you, for the truth. He nodded slightly, wincing at the movement. I deserve that. I deserve all of this. Start talking, Lisa commanded. And remember, everything you say is being recorded. It started 10 years ago, Dad's voice was raspy. Small bets at first, then bigger ones. I thought I could win it all back, but the deeper I got, the more I lost. So you started stealing, I said. The business was failing. Banks wouldn't lend anymore. Then I met these guys. They offered easy money, high interest, but I was desperate. The loan sharks who did this to you? Lisa gestured at his injuries. Different ones. These guys, they're worse. They don't just break legs, they destroy lives. He coughed painfully. When I couldn't pay, they suggested another way. Said they knew people at banks who could help set up loans under different names. That's when you started using family members' identities, Lisa prompted. Yes, your mother. She tried to stop me at first, but then they threatened us. Showed us pictures of you, Michaela. Pictures of Juliana at work. We had no choice. There's always a choice, I snapped. You chose to sacrifice my future to save yourself. You don't understand, he started. The door burst open. A nurse rushed in. His blood pressure's spiking. You need to leave. Wait, Dad grabbed my arm with surprising strength. There's more. The safety deposit box at Riverside, box 247. The keys in my desk at home, bottom drawer. Everything's there. Everything they made us do. His monitors started beeping frantically. The nurse shooed us out as medical staff rushed in. What now? I asked Lisa in the hallway. Now we get that key. An hour later, we stood in my parents' study. The house felt empty, abandoned. Family photos stared down at us as we searched Dad's desk. Found it! Juliana held up a small key. At Riverside Bank, Percy was waiting. He led us to the safety deposit room, hands shaking as he inserted his master key alongside ours. The box contained a thick envelope and a USB drive. Lisa pulled on gloves before touching anything. Smart move, she muttered. Everything's dated and organized. The documents told a story worse than we'd imagined. Photos of our family being surveilled, detailed instructions for identity theft, lists of bank employees who could be bribed, and names of people behind it all. This is bigger than your parents, Lisa said, scanning the papers. This is an organized crime ring using desperate people to commit fraud. Look at this, Percy pointed to a document. They've done this to dozens of families, using the same playbook every time. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. You found the box. Bad move. Very bad move. Lisa immediately called the detective. Within minutes, police cars surrounded the bank. We need to move this evidence now, the detective said, and get all of you into protective custody. No, I stood up. I'm done hiding. Done being afraid. Michaela, Juliana pleaded. These people are dangerous. So am I. I turned to Lisa. Can we use this? Really use it? She nodded slowly. With this evidence, we can take down not just your parents, but the entire operation. But it'll be dangerous. These people won't go down quietly. Good. I grabbed my phone and typed a response to the unknown number. Game on. The reply came instantly. Your funeral. They're trying to scare us, Lisa observed. Let them try. I looked at the evidence spread before us. Proof of years of manipulation, fraud, and corruption. We have something they don't. What's that? Juliana asked. Nothing left to lose. The detective was already making calls, organizing a task force. Percy provided access to bank records showing the money trail. Juliana compiled a list of other potential victims. The preliminary hearing is tomorrow, Lisa reminded me. With this evidence, we can... Another text interrupted her. Last chance. Walk away, or things get ugly. I showed it to Lisa, who smiled grimly. They're panicking. They know we have enough to destroy them. Looking around at our unlikely team, my cousin the lawyer, my sister the whistleblower, the bank officer who chose truth over loyalty, I felt something I hadn't experienced since this nightmare began. Hope. Let's end this, I said. All of it. Tomorrow would be the real battle. But for the first time, we weren't just fighting against something. We were fighting for justice. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver her verdict. Mom sat rigid in her defendant's chair, while Dad slumped beside her, still bearing the marks of his beating. Behind them, a row of their co-conspirators, loan sharks, corrupt bank officials, and the architects of their fraud scheme, all faced the same judgment. Before I deliver my verdict, the judge began, would any of the defendants like to make a final statement? Mom stood, her designer outfit replaced by simple clothing that made her look older, smaller. I'd like to address my daughter. I felt Lisa tense beside me, but I nodded. Michaela, Mom's voice cracked. When you were little, I taught you that family means protecting each other. I realize now that I twisted that meaning. Instead of protecting you, I sacrificed you. There's no forgiveness for that kind of betrayal. Dad didn't stand. He just stared at his hands, defeated. The judge cleared her throat. Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, this court finds the defendants guilty on all counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and witness intimidation. She turned to my parents specifically. Mr. and Mrs. McDonald, your actions represent an extraordinary breach of trust. You didn't just commit fraud. You weaponized family bonds for personal gain. The court sentences you each to 12 years in federal prison. The other defendants received similar sentences. As the judge detailed their punishments, my phone buzzed one last time. This isn't over. I showed it to the detective sitting behind us. He nodded, typing rapidly on his phone. Within minutes, federal agents were moving in on locations across the city, rounding up the last members of the criminal enterprise. That's the last of them, he whispered. The whole network is going down. As bailiffs led my parents away, Mom tried one last time. Michaela, please! Save it, I said, standing. You'll have 12 years to think about what family really means. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Lisa handled them expertly while I hung back with Juliana. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild, I said. The right way. Percy approached us, holding a thick envelope. The bank's fraud department finished their investigation. They're reversing all the fraudulent charges and restoring your credit. Plus this, he handed me a check. Compensation for damages. The amount made my eyes widen. Lisa grinned. Told you we'd make them pay. There's something else, Juliana said quietly. I found Mom's jewelry box, the real one, not the decoy they showed the courts. It's worth enough to help repay the other victims. A familiar voice called out, Michaela! Aunt Margaret hurried over, followed by Uncle Robert and Cousin Sarah. Other family members who'd been victimized joined us, forming a circle of support. We're having dinner tonight, Aunt Margaret announced. All of us, the real family, the ones who stand together without lies. Count me in, Lisa said. But first, she pulled out her phone, showing us a news alert. Major financial fraud ring busted. Dozens arrested in coordinated raids. They really got everyone? I asked the detective who joined our group. He nodded. Your evidence was the key. Opened up investigations in 3 states. Nobody's going to be threatening your family anymore. That evening, I sat at Aunt Margaret's crowded dinner table, surrounded by the family members who'd chosen truth over deception. The conversation flowed freely. Stories of healing, plans for the future, promises to protect each other the right way. A toast, Lisa raised her glass. To Michaela, who taught us all that real strength isn't about keeping secrets, it's about exposing them. And to new beginnings, Juliana added. Built on trust, not lies. My phone lay silent. No more threats, no more manipulation, no more fear. Instead, it held messages of support from other fraud victims who'd read about our case and found the courage to come forward. You know, Lisa said quietly, your parents thought they were protecting the family by keeping secrets. But look around. The family's stronger now that the truth is out. She was right. Every person at this table had chosen to stand with me, to fight for justice, to redefine what family really means. The bonds between us weren't weakened by the exposure of truth. They were strengthened by it. So, Aunt Margaret called out, who's ready for dessert? As laughter filled the room, I felt the last weight lift from my shoulders. My parents had tried to teach me that family meant loyalty at any cost. Instead, they'd taught me something far more valuable. True family is built on honesty, even when that honesty hurts. The truth had cost me my parents, but it had given me something better, a family built on real trust, real support, and real love. And that was worth fighting for.